still muted, and now I'm not muted, hopefully, on stream. Good morning, everyone. What a
Scott, I
wonderful
think you're on
day.
mute.
Yeah,
Scott?
again, yeah,
Hey,
yeah, yeah,
Scott?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks, Adam.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
I'm that guy.
No,
Sorry.
no, that's fine. No, I'm hearing echoing in the background here, so I'm like, oh, my phone's making noise too. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Stone Ridge Confab with your wonderful hosts, me, Scott Papier, Mr. Adam Hallbeck, and Mr. Marcus Hogue. Hopefully, everyone's had a fantastic week so far. It's been very busy for us. I don't know about you, Adam, but I had my Dynamics Con recording that happened
I
today
I did
or
it I
yesterday.
did it
Excuse me.
last week.
Did you?
The crew was awesome. I kept it casual. It was just a heck of a lot of fun. What a pro setup and what a pro process. That was really, really cool. And to your point about being busy and just trying to keep pace a little bit here. If it's any indication that I'm chugging a monster like or an energy drink, a low carb energy drink here, maybe it's something else. Who knows? I'll cover the label. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at these days.
Yeah, it's been a busy time. I think we say that every time we come on stream, but I think our team is also
Yeah.
feeling it as well. So we're going through the spring rush right now, and obviously we've got the next wave release that's coming up too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Ooh, there we go. That's a good idea, Britt. Let's get some sponsors on here, right? What's our market? Our
We'll see.
reach. We'll see what our reach is, right, with this longer term here. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's been good. So I like you said, Adam, DynamicsCon. I just did want to give a shout out to them again as well. They did a great job.
Absolutely.
The recordings were spot on. Jumped on. Went to a site for the dual video feed that happened with it. The presentation that occurred. So I think it's going to look really good. I think for a professional aspect with it. So I'm excited for it.
Yep.
So yeah, what are we talking about today, guys?
I I think there's something about surfing a wave.
A wave?
There's I think there's a I don't know. Something about Point
Uh,
Break or something. I don't know. Keanu Reeves who did Wave 1.
Wave
1
one?
2021.
Is that where we're at?
I think is it 2021?
It is.
It is already, yeah.
It is. So today we're going over the wave information. So it's
Yeah.
it is really fun to go through that stuff, like the excitement that you can get around it and what you can understand is going to be released and what features are there and also the frustrations, right? I have a couple that I'll be exuding today, not to be negative at all, but just that balance of where stuff is going and how we're tackling it. It's been pretty cool to see though the progress that they've been making with the platform and the dates for the general availability. I mean, we're basically, for most of the features that we're looking at, for example, on the finance and operations apps, well, we're in April for a lot of those type of releases. I think, Marcus, you're in the same for BC, right? For most of the GA dates on them?
Well, yeah, they've been doing April through, July, August. They've been spreading them a little bit. I think we saw that with the fall release as well. Even in January, there were a couple of features that were unveiled in the fall, Wave 2, but weren't actually put into the product. So we'll see where these actually end up in terms of release dates, but they're going to start in April.
Yeah. And then Marcus, Adam, the same with you, right? That's kind of where they ended up as well, if I remember correctly, for a lot of the releases.
We'll have a lot of GA right off the bat. Right now, actually, as we speak right now, just because it has been a little crazy, I caught when you go into your Power Platform admin, you go into your environment, and you can see the switch to flip on the wave release, and hey, I want to inject those kind of the pre-release or the preview features as I'm able to in there. I just kicked one on today in one of my D365 marketing environments, so I'm really excited to see how some of this stuff, because we have quite a lot actually between marketing, sales, customer service that we can already get a glimpse at. So it's going to be really cool to start seeing that stuff. And as soon as, what is it? I don't know if it's April 1 or if it's that first week of April. As soon as that door is opened, we're going to have quite a bit across these apps, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing that I don't have access to the newer versions in the previews
I've
because,
been holding
like,
off. I've been holding
right?
off because I don't want to, tell a certain story and flash something that, oh my gosh, we have to have that. This is great, and then it's, well, hey, it's in preview. This is subject to change.
Yeah,
Let's
you don't want you don't want to be demoing
here
you don't want to be demoing previews. The way I always look at it. We demo release because that's what we want to know what we have here, right? So cool.
Absolutely.
Well, let's jump in because we've got quite a bit to go through in a limited time here. And so what I want to do is I want to kick off my section first to go through really the finance and operations apps for everyone that's on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and yeah, ka-chow. There we go. I've got my Dynamics 365, and gentlemen, what I'll do for you over here is share my screen so you can see what I'm sharing, so that you can laugh at my content if needed.
Ever.
There you go. You should see it too. Anyways, okay, so Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations apps. Let's start and kick that off first, and really go through some of what, I think are awesome features, some of the things that I think we need some improvement off of, and really just the excitement around it, right? So obviously, as we go through this as pre-sales architects, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to match these up. There goes Adam. We're trying to match these up to really align to your business process, right? When we're in a demonstration, for example, we want to reflect the best way to address the business topic, right? And that, we use all the applications now to really tackle that. But when we start looking at like finance and operations apps, what we're really looking at are a couple. Obviously, D365 Finance, Supply Chain, Project Ops, and then Guides, where Adam is kind of hiding it down at the bottom there. But really the point here is that when we're going through this particular content, we want to make sure that, we're identifying features, for example, for our team, if you're on, that you should be cognizant of. We're identifying features for our customers that, for example, I've heard like landed costs, which is going to be a topic that we're going to be going through, is a topic or a very important topic as well. So, that's what we're going to highlight here as we go through this. It's not as much about demonstrating it, but just getting you kind of up to speed on where things are at and what we're going to be really pushing in our demonstrations moving forward here, and starting to mobilize around as a team as well internally as we really start looking at these features. So kind of with that, let's talk about cross app height. So when we talk about finance and operations apps, we're talking about those four that I talked about. And when we do cross-app highlights, what we're talking about is what are the features that are shared between all of them. Because remember, as a customer now, you can buy supply chain management, and you can have a different finance backend to integrate with that. Or you can buy just finance, not do the inventory perspective with it, right? This is that app service model that's really changing the market at this point. But really, when we look at what those are, there's a couple of them that I just wanted to highlight here. And we're not going to spend a ton of time on all these, just name the feature, what's it do, kind of move forward from there. So freeze columns and grid control. Marcus, this is a feature you've had for a while now. We now finally have it inside of finance and supply chain management. So we now have the ability in the new grid control where we can do grouping, which is beyond that of even BC at this point. Grouping, totaling, everything inside of the grid control. Nice. We're going to be able to freeze it as well now to actually do some of the freeze panes with it. Really handy when you're looking at lists, and if you want, for example, a customer number and name, and you want the rest of the list to move with it, but you'd want to see those description fields, for example. So that's a nice
items.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Nice welcome addition to the system. There's some mandatory features that are going to be enabled in this next release. And I'm just bringing this to your attention because some customers may need to validate or check with this. Typically, when you do a release and you do the upgrade with it to the newest version through LCS, you don't have to enable a lot of those features, right? They're not mandatory to be enabled. This is the first time I've seen them start pushing mandatory enabled features where they were options in the past, but now they're becoming something that you have to activate when you upgrade to 10.0.17 or the second or our first wave here.
Is this as the odd one out, when it comes to like LCS, we tap into that for some dark to cloud migrations and organizing projects and whatnot. But is this the first? You're saying this is the first time that you will have to have certain features kicked on And is Microsoft pressing that issue, or what's the basis for that?
So it is, to my knowledge. So we'd have to look through the next wave releases. I don't want to misspeak with it, to be quite honest, Adam. But
Sure.
in the past, it's been when they add new functionality in their feature management, they typically don't require it to be enabled by default. You still upgrade the platform perspective with it to the current version, but you don't then enable that feature.
Right.
And now what they're saying is that there are some features that they need to basically move forward so that they're not optional. They want to kind of like basically merge them into the code base so that there's not that conditional check to see whether or not that feature has been enabled in the feature management workspace. And that right now, to my knowledge, I don't know if did CRM or CE, I don't know if CE has that type of capability. I didn't think it did. And I know BC doesn't, right? They were talking about it.
Well, no, that's in there now. So
they did, okay.
We do have feature management, which is one thing I'm going to highlight when we come in here. This is kind of a hybrid situation because some of the BC features are just going to get added, and then there's some that you'll have the option of turning on. So a similar situation here.
We had a LinkedIn user ask Marcus, what flavor of D365 do you work with as we were going through this? Business Central.
Business Central.
Yep, exactly. So I guess just to answer your question, Adam, I believe that this is a newer concept that they're starting to introduce that may not be across all the products. We've had feature enablement for quite some time now, and I'm just saying, guys, just know this is something to look out for, I guess, in the future here, just to keep track of for, just to make sure, for example, recommended fields. These are general availability. Like, for example, I put the GA dates on them. Some of these features have been options to enable since 2019. So it's like,
Got it.
Okay. So there will be some that can be enabled, though, as well by default in 10.0.17. But remember, you can then disable them if you want to as well. So there is an option for these to still be disabled. But in Wave 2, they're expecting these additional features, such as the show-related document attachments, the basic control values, and the task recordings, because they did some additional updates for RSAT. They're going to become mandatory now as well, basically, in the next release. So just visibility for you guys on LinkedIn and on Twitch on what's going on there. Phase 4 of Dataverse is happening here as well, and I had to do the Marvel phases in here, so hopefully I don't get copy striked. Right, copy strike, boom. So phase 1, obviously,
we
had
a beep.
Yeah, exactly. Beep. Yeah. We'll blur it, right, Sabrina? We'll blur it. So phase 1, customers, vendors, and products, obviously, with the Dataverse integration that we were looking at from a dual write integration. So when I'm talking about this, dual write is what we're really focusing on here, and what the progression has been through each of the wave releases. So phase 1, 2, 3, we won't talk about as much. I just have it on here for reference with it. Phase 4 now, what they're really focusing on for our next release then with Dataverse and the dual write capabilities is the financial dimensions on master data, and then that single view for the party and its related data. So it's been a real big push to get the party integration inside of the CE environment, inside of Dataverse, because there's just a lot to it. I remember using the beta that I enabled on one of the environments, and it just broke everything. I mean, it's so integral into all of the order processing in those areas. So this is our first general availability release that we're going to have with it, where our global address book, our party records, and those details are now going to be integrated in between the systems with it. So
Good
something
deal.
to know.
Let's get them for Canvas apps.
Exactly, right? It's getting there, right? You still have virtual entities to offset it. I think we've shown a little bit of that in the past as well, but this is going to be nice in terms of that dual write capability, and they're just continuing to add on to it. So next progression here that you'll start seeing with it, and it's definitely gaining steam. I have dual write enabled in all my environments now. When I spin up a new environment, it automatically enables dual write and sets up actually a Dataverse environment for it, links them, and most of my transactions now when I'm demoing, even on DynamicsCon for the demo, we highlighted dual write capabilities with it as well. So question came in, what is the reason you would enable versus not enable some of those features? Really, regression testing, I think, is the biggest thing with that. When you enable a feature, especially for a lot of public organizations, you need to go through some type of testing and validation that when that feature was enabled, that you didn't impact other processes as part of that. Another option as well to consider is that if you've made extensions to the solution and those extensions don't take into account, for example, those types of features that are enabled, because they could change the core underlying data when you do that event subscriber type design. There could be an impact with that. So you typically enable them as you have validated really that those features mix in with your business process, and also then really with your workflow, and making sure that you're not having errors with your system as you go ahead and enable those.
Yeah, one of them in Business Central was a pricing update, so the way pricing actually works and can be calculated. So that's a great example too. If you've got complex pricing, you don't want to just flip that on and mess up your system.
Yep, exactly. So great question, but it's just an option, and we didn't have it before on BC and on the CE side or Dataverse side as much, and they're starting to introduce that more and more. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Marcus, then too. Finance. Okay, so let's go. So now we're back. That's everything across app, basically, for the finance and operations apps. Next things just to kind of start with here. So Advanced Bank Rec, they had an issue where statement end dates and the start date couldn't be the same date. So if you wanted to actually have overlapping statement reconciliation that you were doing in some scenarios, which is needed to pick up other transactions, for example, they weren't allowed to be able to do that. So they went ahead and added that. They made it so that vendor collaboration workspaces. So if you're using vendor collaboration right now, you can actually have the vendor maintain and update their bank account information, which is pretty cool. So that way, then you can actually do your correct payment processing. It has a whole approval mechanism that's built into there as well. So if you're using that vendor collaboration, as you already know, you can do RFQs, bids, so to speak. You can do purchase orders and confirmations of those purchase orders. You can now have it where the vendor can maintain their master data, more specifically the bank account master data, and then have that go through an approval process internally in your organization. So really cool capability. Cash flow forecasting. So they finally added in the cash flow forecasting, I shouldn't say finally, they added the project integration. So the project forecasts that are out there when you're building out projects weren't included in those particular cash flow forecasts. They're included in budgets. You can do it in budgets and all those different areas. But for the cash flow forecasting, it didn't include that information. That now is there as part of that change. From a finance insights too, I'm just going to skim over this, but they did add some new capabilities in terms of being able to take your data and actually send it out to AI and machine learning to go through your payment predictions and do some external data cash flow forecasting, for example, with the financial insights. And this is something that's been in preview for a while. It's been a little bit of a struggle for our pre-sales team to get a hold of it, because it's actually something that's an external service that needs to be called with it, and they haven't exposed it yet on demo environments, for example, which will be kind of their next step as well. I did want to highlight just kind of a look of it, though. So if you look at, for example, this cash flow forecast that's inside of here, it's pretty cool. Like it's got some good graphs, some good KPIs that are being incorporated into it. It's sending out this information to do customer payment predictions so that you can really reflect what those balances of cash are going to be. It really just kind of elevates that treasury management capability a little bit more. So it's a pretty cool feature in that aspect. Other things just to note here, so electronic invoice add-on was another big addition that they have. It's got just a couple lines on it, but it's a pretty big thing in terms of you can actually now do e-invoicing, support multiple different types of document formats like XML. You can do just flat file exchange as well. It's almost like a way to do EDI with just invoices, so electronic invoices, obviously. The cool thing about this is that it's a microservice and it's designed to be scalable. So you can actually take many hundreds of thousands of invoices, send it to this microservice, and it will actually manage the direction to the interaction basically with the endpoints that are set up, and then do the confirmations and do all those type of intertransactional aspects designed to scale basically. So kind of a cool feature in that regard. Invoicing, a couple things I just wanted to mention with that. Date control, so when you're entering in invoices, you can actually now block invoices from being entered. Instead of just checking on posting date, for example, when they're being entered, it won't allow you to actually create them. So there's some controls that have been put in place for that. We've got some period-specific number sequences now, so if you want to have a different number sequence based upon the period that you're in, which is a different concept, but I thought was pretty cool, you can do that. And they've also then taken, for example, some of the advanced functionality, they called it advanced note management in Italy. They've made that a global feature, and it's basically references the invoices and credit notes so that you can actually do not intercompany, but you can do credits that are not specific by legal entity using this feature now inside of our solution, which is pretty cool. A couple other just big things here, tax updates. Withholding tax, they did some AP integration with withholding tax. So if you're looking at withholding tax capabilities, this would be something maybe to consider with it. And then another thing that came out, which I thought was pretty interesting, was using a packing slip as a tax calculation date. So in Germany, it looks like when you pack it, that's when they're doing their tax calculation with it. This was a request that came from Germany, but they added it to the global solution now at this point. So pretty interesting in that regard. And then lastly, two ones just really quickly on the finance side here, configurable business documents and print management. We got print management now with configurable business documents. So this is where you can actually go through and, for example, create an Excel template, make it so that you've got this nice formatted document and that the system will go ahead and dump in the data for it for those fields. It's a really cool feature. It's going to hopefully cut down on, the SQL Server reporting service modifications that you have to do when you're trying to format your documents, right? So that's going to be nice because now we can use print management with those processes, which really solidifies it. And then kind of lastly here, the Microsoft Tax Service. So there is going to be a tax service provided by Microsoft. I don't know. We don't have any of the exact details with it.
Sales tax? Is it going to be called Contoso?
I don't know. I don't
Contoso
know.
Tax Services?
It's in the release notes of a tax service capability, a microservice that they're going to now be supporting with it. So
interesting.
Yeah, and I know Avalara and some of the others, they've been good in some ways, and they're painful in other ways. And I think that this could be a welcome thing if they do it right in a lot of ways. So we shall see.
Yeah, even if they could offer a calculation service versus the filing, that could be a big advantage.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Other things then. Let's go into supply chain management because I do have a couple in here, and we got, we did our intros, and I just want to make sure I leave enough time for you guys as well. Couple things to note with asset management. So guess what we can do with asset management? We can now bill customers for maintenance work, right? So we've been tackling this typically with Dynamics 365 Field Service, where we have a customer asset that we'll install, and then we would do the work and billing and all that kind of stuff that's related to it. From that perspective, well, now on our asset management, when we generate, for example, maintenance work for a customer that's billable, it'll actually go and create you create a master project and a contract related to it, and it'll take those values and put it to the contract so you can then bill the customer for those particular values. So that is kind of cool, I thought. It's interesting to see where that goes. We still have a little bit of a pain in my mind with the way that the pricing works around asset management with the 100 asset packs, basically. So we've been providing feedback, and our customers have been to Microsoft as well. So we're waiting to see if anything changes with that, but something just to note. Other things just to say here as well, maintenance plans based on data. We had talked about this before. We now have it where you can have, for example, accumulated totals that you maintain as metrics on an asset, and a maintenance plan can be kicked off when a metric hits a certain threshold. So that's more of that, almost like preventative, so to speak. You could have 100 assets that are out there and have an accumulated total of a certain trigger, and if it hits a certain value, for example, you can have a maintenance order generated then for those particular assets, which is pretty cool. And then we also have the ability here for the asset usage from IoT now to be integrated as well. So there's going to be an IoT framework that we're able to access then for asset management that's going to be inside of Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain. Other areas here then too, inventory and logistics, small parcel shipping. This is one I've gotten a couple questions on already. Really all it is, just high level, they're just making it so that the rate engine can be extended easily in some ways. I always thought it could be, to be quite honest, because when I was working with the transportation management capabilities, I saw that there was a way to add custom rate engines. This one takes it a little bit further, I think, in that they've added some ZPL capabilities for printing of labels as part of the packing process. So that's where that small parcel shipping came in. It's not. It still goes through the same thing that we did, like the packing. And it, like I said, it just uses a different rate service carrier. And those rate service carriers, Microsoft hasn't created yet. So they haven't created a UPS, FedEx, or USPS rate carrier service yet. That's going to be up to third parties or us or somebody else to create and maintain those. We've got a material handling automation integration that is going to be part of this release. So cool thing about that is that we now have the ability to have machines that can basically go off of a queue and then report work back. So when work is generated to pick something, for example, if you've seen those automated machines that can go and do some of the picking that's related to it, we now have a queue that we can interact with that will then update work and post work as those transactions process. So full automated capabilities inside of here. Big one for our team, inventory archiving, and actually for customers as well. Our team's been talking about this a lot lately. Yeah, but inventory archiving. GA on April 2021. So that's going to be a really interesting feature to look at. One of the things that we've known and we've looked at with the finance and operations apps databases is that there are limitations on the database size that you have, and we need to have a way to take that data and put it into a data lake. And with some of our customers, we're tackling that right now. But this inventory archiving is a really good concept to have to be able to really help with those data conversations. And then from a microservices perspective, just something to note, inventory visibility, being able to basically see inventory quantities across many different legal entities inside of your organization as a microservice is now exposed. If you think about Dynamics 365 for commerce and point of sale opportunities, being able to very quickly get to a global inventory perspective is really critical. And then also this global inventory accounting, I'm really intrigued by this. This is basically a separate cost ledger that can be set up for inventory so that you can maintain, for example, a local currency and then a functional currency difference between inventory. One thing I don't know about yet is whether or not you can actually maintain multiple costing methodologies with it, which would be really cool. If you could, for example, have standard for your accounting cost property or your cost, and then if you could actually do FIFO for reporting or average or anything else like that in a different cost ledger. Exactly, right? I've gotten that question so many times.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, this might be the gateway for that longer term. And I'm not going to go through a lot of this. I want to highlight this, though. Scale units. New concept, really big, really cool. Scale units allow for us, for example, to take these certain types of transactions that are listed here and actually have them located on-prem to do the transactions. So one of the common questions we get in our demonstration process is how do we actually maintain, for example, if you get disconnected, what's our backup plan with it? Well, they have what are called edge scale units now that hold the data in a hub and spoke type model, where you can then, all the work that you issued before the disconnect occurred can actually then be processed then by warehouse workers and employees as they go through that. So this is a pretty big change. And what happens with this as well is we've got a couple new apps that are introduced with this. So we have a new warehouse app that I'm going to show in just a second here. And we also have a new production floor execution interface. And just to kind of highlight that, for example, our sign-in screen, it actually runs in the browser. So you get a URL, and it's actually, if I remember correctly, it's production floor execution will be the name of it that will be inside of the production control area. But you're able to use, for example, sign in for it as well for your badge information that you typically interact with. You've got a more rich visualization interface that you can actually access with it. It's not an app, for example, that's on the App Store. It's inside of Dynamics 365. So you provide a URL and it will actually format it like this for you. And then from here you can see, for example, your active jobs that are in the system. and then, you know, your machine information. And the cool thing about this, as you can see, downtime and maintenance requests, one of the features that they listed was that they're going to have the asset management integration now as well on this perspective. So I want to just quickly demo this. We'll just show it on the screen just really quickly here. So here's the warehouse app then as well. So if we go like through a sales picking perspective with this, when we talk about, you know, being able to go through and do a transaction within it, we can actually go ahead and then enter in our values here, see our pictures that are related to it, see the flow of where we're on this particular one, do some of our different interactions then here as well with it, short picks and things of that nature, scanning, for example, license plates and whatever the license plate number is that's in here, right? Quantity. And as you can see here, the interface compared to the old green one that we have, it's a welcome update, right? It's a little bit refreshing comparatively. So this is going to then be that new interface that we're able to interact with from a warehouse management perspective. So expect to see more of these capabilities added really as we move forward here in that warehouse app. And then
that's using the Edge setup too.
That's using Edge as well. Yep, Edge has supported use cases with that warehouse app as we go through this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. Just know rebate management. There's some updates that are occurring with that. They've actually built on top of rebate management with it. The worker sign-in, like we were showing with that app, you can do facial recognition now. The planning optimization, just to mention just really quickly, remember we've got our planning engine that is our classical planning engine that we do MRP in, and now we have our planning optimization, which is supposed to replace that. They've been continuing to add support to try to get that to parity with our MRP engine. They've done a good job, but there's still some gaps. An example of that, this next release, schedule with infinite capacity support. So right now, the planning optimization process doesn't use in its released version the ability to do, you know, finite capacity or even infinite capacity on routes. It basically just uses lead times on items to do that calculation in terms of when it has to be produced. So they're doing the infinite capacity, which is a great first step. Once they get to finite capacity, I think that's where we'll see more manufacturers take that on. And then reorder margin and issue margin support, making sure that we've got some lead time, safety lead times that are related to that. And then the change management capabilities too. Remember, we've got some engineering change management functionality that was added that only allowed for us to use it with new products. Well, now they finally enabled it with the existing products. So we should be able to use change management and versioning processes, including readiness checklists, which are pretty cool, on our existing products that we have as well. And finally, my elephant in the room with this. One of the new features that I saw that I was super excited about, that I knew about coming out, was this landed cost capability. And I'm still super excited about it. I just want to give you a heads up so that you know kind of the differences with this. And from a team perspective, there's decisions during implementation that are just going to have to be made on how it's tackled, basically. So first off, landed costs, new feature, definitely needed in a lot of ways. We have some really basic landed cost capability inside of Dynamics 365 already through our transportation management and through charges, but this is really what true landed costs are. The bad thing about it is it's a whole new functional area. It's not integrated into TMS. So what I mean by that is that we've got to tackle new concepts with this. So concepts, for example, no longer do we use load management, we use voyages. No longer do we use routes, we use journeys. No longer do we use segments, we use legs, right? So there's all these new concepts on inbound orders that you're going to have to get familiar with in some ways. Some of the negatives of it is data is not shared, for example, between transportation management and landed costs. So if you have all of your routes set up, for example, if you've got scheduled routes that you typically have for fulfilling your inbound loads with processing, you've got to reset up basically voyages and journeys and legs to be able to support that. Other aspects as well that are pretty cool with the landed cost capability, it supports good in transit. So you can actually see a warehouse and what that value is for goods that are in transit, which is a pretty common request. And it also takes that cost and loads it into the item, right, as part of that process. But the other thing with it is that it also supports the transfers. And this has been a bigger gap that we've had where the cost of transfers, if you want to have a landed cost between that shipping facility and you want to put that into the cost of the item, well, we didn't have the ability easily to do that. We had some methods like with standard cost to do that, but it was kind of a gap. So here's the elephant that I have with it. If you remember the warehouse management side of this, when we went to the Wax and Trax, we had actually 2 different warehouse management capabilities in our solution before we moved to finally the one that we support. Now we have basically one warehouse management, one inventory system. So the thing with this is that all that investment that you have from a load pay capability, you're going to have to potentially replicate if you want to use this functionality. In my mind, it would have been way easier, and maybe there's some legal restriction or something I don't know about with it, to take, for example, a load and make it so that it would have actually gone through and put that landed cost as an option or setup related to it, as opposed to designing this entirely separate area. Good thing about it, though, you can use both, meaning you can use the landed cost functionality for inbound purchase processing, and then you can use the outbound loads, so TMS capabilities, for fulfillment capabilities. So if you want to do the shipping and fulfillment capabilities inside of the solution. So, just know this has come down the pike. We'll see what happens. Maybe they're going to expand beyond this as well. But just giving you a heads up, I think this is a pretty cool feature, but there's going to be some caveats as we go through it as well. So yeah, that's what I got. Marcus, Adam, I think that's what you were going to go next, right?
Yeah, we can crack this open. So mine should be pretty short by comparison. Share this out, go into a deck. Let me know if you can see that. I'll hide you, Scott.
Oh, I look so good though.
All right, so
let me, 1 sec, I gotta get you to your clipped. Boom, you're good.
All right, so there were a lot of new features for D365 customer engagement applications. So we're going across sales, marketing, customer service, and field service. One of the interesting things that we talked about before jumping on this call is that project operations is actually now categorized in the finance and supply chain management wing of the release notes, which is really interesting. The writing was sort of on the wall, and with some of their architectural shifts and dependencies on finance supply chain management, it kind of makes sense. And it was just interesting to see that that's grouped that way now, right in the release notes. So what you don't see here on this list is field service. There were so many goodies, and there's so much emphasis and so much R&D taking place for field service. I think it's probably best if we maybe chunk out a dedicated session for that, or we really dive in and make it more visual. Today is all about just kind of bullet points and talking through the excitement, some of the buzz around what we're finally seeing between marketing, sales, and customer service. So separate session. We're not touching project ops either. But man, I have to say, with respect to what they're pumping into marketing and sales, especially sales, the sales section was pretty deep, and customer service, it's really exciting. So we're going to start with marketing. So if you think about sort of the process, we're all about process, top of the funnel, filling the top of the funnel, making sure we have solid handoffs to sales, marketing, qualified leads, pipeline, etc. So we're starting with marketing. If you've been paying attention to D365 marketing over the last however many months or a couple of years here, they've been really focusing on user experience and making things easier, making things, just that much more simple to configure, to drag, to drop, to one-click action. A lot of these different whether you're looking at email templates or customer journeys or what have you, making it simpler, making it easier for that end user. So we do have an updated email template experience now. It's been getting better with the major releases and minor releases. It's been getting more intuitive. It's been getting just that much easier to get to your artifact, to get to that test, to get those emails out the door. So we do have an updated editing experience. I'm, like I said before, just right now pumping in those Wave 1 updates in one of my marketing environments. So we'll check that out when we're in there. Another piece, and we're going to see this across apps as well, is leaning on intelligence. So that second item down, AI-driven capabilities for the digital assets that you have organized. So being able to intelligently tag and categorize those digital assets for organization purposes, but then also using some of the intelligence that we have when we're looking at the D365 customer insights to marketing bridge and some of those capabilities we have for intelligent segment building, and looking at new metrics for segment building like customer churn and monetization. So we have a lot of new data points and trends and pieces we can draw from the customer insights half of the equation, pulling into marketing, which is really exciting. I should say a note here too, customer insights had quite a healthy chunk on its own within those release notes, and I haven't even gotten to dive into that portion yet. So we're gonna see a lot of investment on that front as well. Third bullet down, one of the biggest excitement points that I have is channels of SMS and push notifications now available in a rich format from D365 Marketing. When we had to jump down any SMS pathways for texting updates, whether those are transactional messages or actual marketing to cast the net through that channel, well, we had to go through omni-channel setup, find a provider. Now we're starting to see more of those features baked into the platform, which is awesome. So you think about developing a customer journey end to end, how many times do we look at that and go, yeah, I wish we had a text touch point here, just to maybe double up with an email, or maybe wait for a certain spell and then hit the touch point with a text, and we now have the ability to do that, plus push notifications. They did mention in-app or out-of-app. So I'm curious to see how this actually flows through and what the hands-on experience is in building those push notifications. But from the images within the release notes, it looks like it's very rich. Like it looks like you can, include multimedia. You can do SMS or MMS, which is really exciting. So this is going to open up a whole new door.
Is that leveraging Power Automate somehow?
I don't know. It looks like everything in the release notes points to a native inbuilt tool.
Interesting.
It doesn't seem like it's reliant on Power Automate bits, but I could be wrong. So it's really exciting to see a lot of this oomph being introduced, and not just the tactical pieces, right, but also the polish of user experience, making this easy for people using the application. The last two here for marketing, journey goals, which was really exciting. So we can go at any point in a customer journey, we can see performance, we can see engagement or impression types, and you can see the marketing funnel for unique opens, unique clicks, et cetera, going down. On a stage-by-stage basis, we're clicking into each stage to see how people are interacting with, say, email templates or something. But having goals, if we wanted to set up a specific KPI for that specific journey, having more granularity in how we're reporting, how we're visualizing performance with marketing campaign automation is really exciting, and will bring another level of insights to how we're automating and what we're doing for our customers and casting that net. And this one's going to pop up a couple of times. Analytics.
Yep.
Microsoft is now, you had an elephant in the room, Scott. I think I have an elephant in the room as well. And this has actually come up quite a bit with some of the demos and conversations we've had over the past number of months. Historically, to be blunt, Microsoft has been a little lacking when it comes to off-the-shelf analytics. Looking at what salespeople, what marketers, what customer service agents and managers really care about, and we've seen that slack being addressed. We've seen advanced analytics for customer service. We've seen advanced analytics. So actually using Power BI capabilities natively with the off-the-shelf product, usually looking at the enterprise tier, having some of these ready to go analytics and dashboards, but not just having some bells and whistles and flash, making them meaningful. So actually focusing on what's important. For a customer service, it would be time to resolution and customer satisfaction and real-time trends. And for marketing, seeing some of the journey analytics, seeing some of these configurable goals will really enhance not just just understanding the insights of where we are and how are we doing, but then bubbling that up to a grander level, bubbling that up to leadership to make informed decisions and not be living in sort of this like journey by journey or campaign by campaign silo, which is really cool. So this is really exciting to see this, and I'm so pumped for that SMS and push notification capability. Gosh, all right.
It sounds like it's going to be another one of those microservices. That's what I'm seeing with this, right? So that's awesome. That's awesome.
And I don't know if we'll have, if we have some questions that pop up. What is this a microservice? Is this maybe like the Azure messaging services that we saw, open up over the course of the last year? Is it tapping into that? Don't know yet. Don't know yet,
Yeah,
but
and if
I'm
in
really
chat,
pumped to
remember,
hands
if
on.
you guys know, let us know in chat. We're more than happy to
Abs-
take feedback. We'd be very curious on what's going on beyond. We go just so everyone knows too. Private Yammer, that type of stuff. There's certain things that we can and can't say as well throughout this process, but just note that if you have public knowledge that you want to share, feel free to put it in chat as well. Go ahead,
Yep.
Adam. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, all good, all good. Sales, I was kind of blown away by how many new features are being um, introduced to D365 sales, and a lot of this has been in that sales enablement camp. We have so much by way of building out our pipeline process, lead to opportunity, advanced activity management, automation with Power Automate. Getting into deeper grooves of quoting and getting to orders, and we have so much of those fundamental pieces, those building blocks. But what we didn't have, and what the competition did have, were things like, you'll see on this list, auto transcription capabilities. So actually taking call, real-time data and being able to port that to text for records. Just this the theme for salespeople, ease of entry. I don't. Britt on our team is famous for saying, "Make the system work for you, not the other way around," and we can do that. As SMEs for D365 sales, we build a lot of that capability. But now Microsoft is really coming to bat and putting this in the off-the-shelf product, which is really exciting. So you think about a salesperson on the road with a mobile phone. Couple of clicks, couple of taps, have my whole conversation pulled down, see insights and sentiment analysis. A lot of this sort of is included with Sales Premium these days. So the Sales Insights bolt-on that you can introduce to your environment, but the continued investment and innovation in some of these real end-to-end automated experiences is really cool. A few more that are further down. LinkedIn, obviously, that's going to keep growing, going to keep.
Yeah.
They're gonna make it tighter and more features with some of those LinkedIn components. It feels like, with some of the Sales Premium, Sales Insights, the Sales Accelerator, if anybody's been hands-on with that, really trying to orchestrate what you need to do right in front of you so you can get it done right now. So we'll have an enhanced, a better, I say queue management in here, but I think it's going to be sort of a single stream knockout of different activity flavors and whatnot. So I'm excited to see. And then they say one-click action. So much like we just talked about with mobility, hey, tap of the thumb, it's going to go execute 3 different things. Tap of the thumb, voice note, it's going to go execute 3 different things. So we'll see what that looks like. What I'm also really excited about in terms of, we talked about like the LinkedIn deeper integrations, Modern Workplace and Office 365, Microsoft 365 deeper integrations, having, direct Outlook calendar visibility. We have our appointments and scheduled work orders and all these things that live on a calendar that we can sync to and from Outlook. But one of the bigger, one of the channel asks from end users and from the partner community has been, let's unify this. Let's unify this as much as possible. So we're taking another step toward that, having an integrated Outlook calendar visibility. This is big directly from D365. So if I have to-dos or lunch item, a lunch scheduled with a business partner or something that I don't really want in D365, but I still want to understand what my calendar looks like so I can schedule it in an informed fashion. This is big, as well as a deeper Teams integration to kick off Meet Now meetings from the app, which is huge.
Yeah, I hope they get to the native integration like as much as possible with that, because I face it like, right, you go through your calendar and I live off of my Outlook calendar.
Absolutely.
If we had opportunities with it, we could use both, right? It's just so cool.
Yep. And I'm trying to give Marcus ample time here. There's so much that's in here.
We'll go a little bit. I'll just say this too. Don't skip anything that you feel is important. This session, guys, is going to go a little bit longer because we do not want to shortchange any of these features. We'll have it recorded, obviously. So if you can't stay the full entire time, just go ahead and click on that link that will be in our confab, usually on YouTube or even on the event on LinkedIn or even on Twitch. It'll be there. So like I said, don't feel bad if you have to go. If you can stay, great. We're going to keep going through it, but we're definitely not going to shortchange this stuff. Yep, go ahead, Adam.
Perfect. All right, because these last two actually are quite important.
Yep.
So individualized seller KPIs. So we have the normal, we can report on conversion rates, originating lead analyses, opportunity win-loss ratios, and give body to that with status reasons and additional data points. But it sounds like we're getting some enhanced seller-specific KPIs. So one thing that stood out to me was this broader idea of an estimated value of a pursuit. So I don't quite know what that looks like just yet, but it sounds like we're sort of tapping into that trend analysis. Given all the information we have, given all of the text analysis and relationships and the data that we have for this pursuit and this pipeline, is it worth it? Is this going to be a valuable endeavor, a valuable pursuit? Now, I might be blowing that out of proportion, but we'll see what that looks like. The other one is snapshots. So understanding on a period by period basis, we build this all the time, or we pull in an aggregate list of data and we kind of snapshot over a period, or we use goals, roll up queries, etc. It sounds like we're going to have another tool in that toolbox to make it even easier to look at year over years or quarter over quarter snapshots of sales performance in a pipeline way. So this is cool to have some of this, have more sales enablement toolbox at our fingertips. At the top of this next list, so this is just a continued sales breakdown. There's too much to fit on one slide. So lead provider services, Britt, if you're listening, this is huge. We work with a lot of construction organizations or, groups that will be working off of bids, so if I have a service that I'm usually tapping into to scour for leads or to really fill the top of that funnel for industry specific lead generation services that you subscribe to, it sounds like Microsoft is building those guts, building those hooks to be able to make that easier to integrate with some of those services that are industry specific, which is awesome. So after that, some new configuration tools that we've got, new form types, not really new, but it looks like we're going to be able to build side panel forms. So if you think of like the quick create experience when I'm creating a new activity or if I'm creating a new contact, it looks like we're going to have this shorthand, sort of that right hand window shade. I don't exactly know what it looks like yet, but from what I read, it will be, working off of my deal manager dashboard, which is a couple of bullets down, but working off of my deal management workspace. If I click into an opportunity or click into a contact, having that quick form pull off from the right hand side. So just getting the snapshot and that those will be configurable. That was the exciting part to me, is we basically have a new form type we're going to be able to use to build in that great user experience in D365 sales, and still work. I talk all the time about flat experiences, so quick create or the perpetual search at the top. Like, we're doing a lot more from a single place instead of clicking away and getting lost and turned around in the system. Really just building on that user experience, doing more from a single stop shop instead of going somewhere else to do something that's more intuitive. And then speaking of new configuration tools, new charts. So it sounds like we're going to get some enhanced bubble funnel and bar charts. The bubble charts are really cool if you've ever jumped into D365 sales, like the premium, looking at relationship insights or MRSS, having those like deals by value and sort of the volume bubbles that you see mapped out. There are some visuals in the release notes, so go check those out. They're really cool, but they also add a lot of value. Understanding, we talked a minute ago about understanding the value of your pursuits. How valuable is this for you, for your partners, for your, for everybody involved? We're going to be able to visualize that with new chart types, which is really cool. Deal Manager Workspace is coming, so having everything as a one-stop shop. Looks like we've got some pretty major UI updates, and by major I mean we haven't seen like the left nav touched in a little bit yet. So it looks like we're going to see some optimization here and there. And then analytics. This is the exact same bullet that we just saw in marketing. We're getting better, more valuable, more informative dashboards and analytics right out of the gates, which was a weak spot. Like we would have to configure, design those, build those with Power BI, out of the box dashboards, orchestrating multiple charts, views, etc. Now we're getting more as soon as we turn in the keys and in valuable ways, which is really exciting. And the last but not least item for sales here is easier telephony integrations, which is also something that, we can tackle that with Omnichannel. We can tackle that with the channel integration framework, and pull in whatever you're using, Avaya, Cisco, et cetera. But this is going to make it easier, probably like the lead provider services, just including some of those, configuration data, some records to tie into, some app keys or service keys, just to make it a little easier instead of getting to the nitty or grittier, like server-side stuff that we might have to plug into. So this is all the sales stuff. great. I love the emphasis on sales enablement. We've been really looking for a lot of this. And yeah, it came with premium, and yeah, it came with sales insights and whatnot, but it looks like we're getting a lot more across those tiers and across those license types. And customer service, we just have one slide on this one. There were a lot more in the release notes, so check them out. But knowledge base updates, looks like we're going to be able to, you'll see the knowledge base access the search widget on some of our customer service forms. I think we're going to get a little bit more configurability to access our knowledge base, as well as some deeper analysis on how we're using knowledge base articles. So this is very beneficial for enterprise organizations where you're really invested in a KB, and a lot of teams, a lot of BUs, a lot of different articles that people are calling on to close those cases faster or to help your customers more quickly, not reinventing the wheel. It looks like we're going to get the how are we using it so we can optimize, so we can trim fat, so we can fill in the blank, which is exciting. Omnichannel, I guess I spelled that as Omnichannel, which is not a new product. That's just a typo. It's Omnichannel enhancements. So transcription, we talked a little bit about this in sales, being able to go voice to text. We can take voice notes with the mobile app, but now we're bringing that to another level to really streamline. And you'll see, I'm going to flip to the last bullet. These are sort of hand in hand here, using voice as a user interface, voice as a UI. That's very compelling, especially for people that work off of these, that work off of mobile devices, to take a quick note, fill a field, and have that, we can, after the fact, we already talked about some of those sales activities we can jump into, go take action. So voice to text to action, that's powerful. That's a compelling story. So we have the ability to now open up voice commands or voice for our Power Virtual Agents, which is, that doesn't just add value to, if somebody has their hands full, but, you think about like accessibility, technological accessibility, and making sure that everybody is being included in the design. So, if people are limited in terms of using a keyboard, this is going to be huge to open up another layer of UI to interact with our bots and interact with our solutions. And for those that have been asking for it for years and years and years and years, it's opened up ever so slightly here and there as we've gone by, but it sounds like we will have now very granular timeline configuration. Now, the one thing that stood out to me was, for each activity type, while you're in your timeline, you'll have different, you can assign it, you can open the record, you can delete it maybe if you have those privileges. It sounds like we're going to be able to control what we expose there in the little mini command bar on an activity by activity basis in that timeline. So we're going to have a lot of control, which is what the channel has been asking for, users have been asking for ages. So hopefully this is, this is a better, bigger, longer step into sort of full configurability for the timeline. I have to imagine it's not. I have to imagine we'll still have some, fences we live between, boxes we're living in, but it's really cool to see that open up.
It's a good idea too, right? I mean, that'd be
so
awesome.
Much.
That's
so
a lot.
Much. It's so much.
Right? We all have a lot.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That's a lot of good content. I know in chat here, like Dave was saying, I'm glad to hear about the lead integration, right? Yeah, like some of those are just basics that you'd expect in some way to be there. And now it's just nice to see them in there, right? As each of these waves come out, we get more and more of those types of capabilities and more services that can actually be used across many different areas too. So that was awesome, Adam. So. All right, I know, Marcus, you've got some too. Let's get to you. You've got your presentation on screen. Let's talk Business Central.
All right, we're ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple different areas. I'm just going to hit some highlights here. From an administrative perspective, so this is the admin portal, basically, behind Business Central. So some improved reliability around database exports. I think this is a big differentiator when we look at other SaaS products in general, is really the ability to get your hands on the data. So BC, you can export the data out, you get all your data. There's some enhancements around the size of those databases, just enabling some better export options. Delegated administration, that's a big deal. So you currently are, in the prior versions, you had to actually be an administrator to get to the admin portal. There's going to be some delegated administrative privileges. That's also going to help us from a partner perspective have access to some of the features that have been limited to being actually a user setup in the system. So some nice enhancements there. And then, probably from a partner perspective as well, being able to reassign an environment. So currently, you spin up an environment, you're sort of stuck with the thing. We're going to be able to move these things around. So that's an enhancement more from a partner perspective. I don't know that a client would necessarily care about that. You do have to engage Microsoft support to do it. You're not able to do it.
We've had it happen already. I mean, if I remember correctly, like we've had it where customer didn't say that they had AAD. We find out after the fact they have AAD when they try to add the customer or the employees, and we're like, well, we've got to move the environment now from one AAD to another, right? So
Yep. It's a mess.
Yep.
But improved capabilities here.
That's awesome.
Okay, so from an application perspective, assisted setup tasks moving item costs to the background. They're doing more and more of this in Business Central. So when you have some of these larger tasks that need to run, you can schedule them off the job queue, essentially is where they're running, but you can run them in the background so you're not tying up your machine, which is nice. Automatic creation of lot and serial number information cards. This is a feature that sort of got slipped in under the radar. Are these extended lot and serial information cards? They're extending some additional functionality to those cards. That's really going to enable some third-party products. So we work a lot with Yavion as a ISV that's offered on Business Central. There's some lot serial tracking that they do, and they leverage these information cards. There's going to be some more features around there out of the box. So that's kind of some nice features if you use lot serial tracking. Improvements on bin. Yeah, bank reconciliation, continual improvements there. Bin codes and jobs. I think this is the first jobs improvement we've seen in years. So I was actually encouraged to see any improvement in the jobs functionality that was encouraging in my mind. I don't know if this is a huge deal, but at least it's something in jobs, which I thought was great. Changes in synchronization between contacts and customers. It's kind of a minor issue. Lot size definition through production. So you can split a lot or do partial completes on through the production cycle. This is going to allow you to actually define what those lot sizes are. So nice enhancement around manufacturing. Dimension corrections. I told you, Scott, before we started, this is one of those things that I thought should have been in the application a long time ago. So posted GL transactions, you end up with them posted to the wrong dimensional values. They're going to allow for the ability to actually change the dimensions that have been assigned on posted transactions. It's a huge hole. It's nice that they're adding that.
Real quick, did they say they're going to go to the higher level documents and update it as well, or did it just say GL?
No. Yeah,
just GL to start. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
good.
I'll take it. I'll take it to start.
Yeah, everywhere in here is GL entries. Very, very explicit. It's
okay.
GL entries.
Yeah.
Only, so it's not change the source document.
Okay, cool. Yep. Just making sure because I still have my good old utility that I designed back in the day that did this, right? So it's nice to see. This is like you said, Marcus. I'll take GL entries. It's a great first start with it, and then you can enable change log on it, and you'll be able to have the audit history with it. You're not updating balances, right? So that's really cool to see. Okay.
Inventory documents. Again, I think these are long time coming. So you can do an inventory receipt and an inventory shipment. I don't have to create a purchase receipt and a purchase shipment document. So I can, instead of doing just an inventory adjustment generically, I could actually create a document that would be shipping or receiving inventory. So it's kind of nice with those. You need to make adjustments, but you don't have those sales documents or the purchase documents necessarily, and you've got something other than just an inventory adjustment. So nice. I think it's a nice setup there. Mm-hmm. More control for setting up default dimensions. So what this allows you to do is, you can say that I have a dimensional value that's required. So if I've got a department, then I need to, let's see, maybe I've got a product line and I need to define the area that the thing was sold in. Right now, you can say that the dimension is required, optional, or excluded. This is actually then going to say that only a particular set of dimensions are valid. So if I've got 5 potential dimensions, I can say, well, you actually can only pick 3 of the 5 dimension values to assign to the transaction. Again, I know there's ISV's customizations that have been done to do that. Out of the box, it's going to be nice.
Yeah, it is.
Payment reconciliation improvements, bank statement files. Those are just continual improvements in those areas, which is good. Better with 365. Look up Business Central contacts within Teams. I think, Adam, you and I talked about the Teams integration. Maybe we did with Business Central. I talked to somebody last week about it.
Yep.
you know, it's still a little weak. Let's just be honest about it. You know, there's some interaction with Teams in terms of being able to put data and stuff in there. Being able to put contacts now is an interesting feature. I don't know exactly how many people would implement it yet. What I see though is on the horizon the ability to extend this even further. So what we're getting is some base functionality into the application that's just going to allow us to do some really cool things. Word merge. There's still been ways to pull data out of Business Central to do a word merge, like through an OData service or something like that. But this is going to be more directly connecting to Business Central through the mail merge functionality. So not a lot of details on it, but it's there. Cloud printing through Microsoft Universal Print. So some of our clients just have a lot of issues with the browser trying to print to printers and determining what printer am I printing to, etc. So Microsoft is making some nice enhancements around that.
Yeah, and Richard Corona made a comment too. I know a few finance people who will love the dimension corrections, and yeah, 100%, right?
Oh,
like,
yep.
Absolutely.
Well, and I've seen so many people that have had systems where they haven't fully tested, let's say, dimensional value setups, and they start posting transactions and then they're wrong. And to get those cleaned up is a lot of work. Being able just to quickly clean them up at a GL level will satisfy, I think, what a lot of people need to do.
Yep.
Country and regional support. You know, I've bypassed this so often that I just thought I wanted to highlight it this time. I think this is really encouraging when we look at country support for Business Central. So what you'll see is we're getting into North Africa, actually just even deeper into Africa, into the Middle East. So we're not limited to your standard English-speaking countries anymore. We're getting and not just Europe. Those are areas that have been covered a lot. So I think it's encouraging to get further into the Middle East for product support as well as into Africa. So more adoption worldwide. Again, I've always said more users in Business Central is good for all Business Central users. It's more attention, more money being invested into the product. So the more people that potentially could be using it, the better it is for everybody. Power Platform, virtual tables. So virtual tables for Microsoft Dataverse, we saw this last fall. It's just more objects that are going to be natively available through virtual tables. Synchronization of item availability to Business Central to sales. This has been something that you could sort of do, so it would expose the quantity on hand as a web service that you could then leverage in Dynamics 365 for sales. This is going to be more out of the box functionality to connect that item availability, quantity available back into sales. So a common question we get asked all the time. And then the BI connector to work with Business Central APIs instead of web services only. So again, just enhanced capabilities around Power BI. Connections with Business Central. So that's really good too.
That is really good.
Modern client development tools. Report API passes the report layout, not payout, layout needed for report execution. So that's a nice enhancement. Reports run in the background. Another huge enhancement. Kind of went with that process, that standard cost update process where you could run those in the background. Reports being able to run in the background too is a big deal. Client performance improvements. So in the fall release, Microsoft changed the way that pages load in terms of the page parts as well as how FactBox is loaded. So what they did is instead of loading all of the objects at one time and then rendering the page, what they're doing is they're basically rendering the parts as they load on the page. So you'll notice how the pages load is a little different. This client enhancement is going to include more of those types of objects, and they're going to include the role center. So they've seen some positive feedback from clients using the system regarding the FactBox changes. So that's going to roll out to the role center more specifically. Usability enhancements with the web client. So if you're a Business Central user, you know that menus and the menus and the sub menus have changed the way they work. Microsoft is making some more investment in really how those menus work and how the buttons work, which is just going to help usability. Scrolling on forms, you're not going to lose the headers, and there's still some pages that you lose headers when you scroll. Those are going to be cleaned up as well.
Okay.
When are you going to get a left nav, Marcus? Join the club.
Well, we got rid of that when we went to the
Yeah, exactly. We had that.
It's going to come back. It's just going to come back.
We've evolved beyond that. Anyway, cloud printing. So with the universal print, that's going to extend to the apps, which is cool. And users going to change their assigned printing. So again, some enhancements around printing. If you've got issues, that's an issue. All right, partners can add keys to tables using table extensions. This is a huge deal. So, you look at performance tuning on larger databases. The ability to add custom keys has been a hole. So that's coming. Natively printing barcodes. This is an awesome thing. So one-dimensional barcodes, we'll take it, but instead of having to
Use
we
a
could
font,
make the
right?
yeah, we can make the system do it, but this is going to be natively in the extension building. So huge deal. Extension validation on upgrades. There's still some features around that today, but this is an enhanced capabilities around this, so that we're going to get better error checking, etc., on the extensions themselves. There's some obsolete support things that are going to happen in extensions. If you're a programmer, that's a bigger deal. Report extensibility. So this is a major change for us. So currently, if you want to create a report extension, you really have to take the base report, you have to copy it, and then create essentially a new report, because we didn't have the ability to actually extend reports. We're now going to have the ability to create a report extension like we can a table or page extension. So really nice for report modifications. Getting a record link instead of the name and lookups optimization in terms of performance tuning. Dimensional tracking in item. Oh, so this is in item tracking. So we're going to have some additional feature functionality around, again, that serial lot number. There's a lot of vertical solutions that leverage additional functionality around the serial and lot number tracking. So there's going to be some additional out-of-the-box features that are going to help those ISVs, but I think we're going to get some functionality around some advanced lot serial tracking out of the box, which is nice. Improve extensibility around reservation management. So they've really rewritten some of the code units and how the reservation system works inside of Business Central. So currently, if you want to do any enhancements around reservations, it doesn't really follow the same programming system. Reservation management is just different in terms of how it's been written. They're making it more consistent with the rest of the system, so it's going to make extending it much easier. And then some new AL objects regarding permission sets and extending permission sets, so that you're going to be able to really manage permissions a little bit easier. And I think this is really geared towards ISV development, so that you can create permission sets and permission groups a lot easier when you install your ISV application. So
becomes an object now. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. It's just a lot easier. Onboarding. So Microsoft has made some enhancements for new clients. So getting started checklist, faster initial setup, improved company setup experience, which is really nice. In-app contextual help improvements. So you can extend the help system. It's not great. This is actually going to help you do that. It's going to be much cleaner, so that you can add more specific help or like tool tips to specific client environments. So it's really nice.
Say, Microsoft is doing a pretty bang up job of doing that cross platform with all of these apps, especially with the newer features and onboarding like we're talking about here. I had a little bullet in mind that was, just for trial environments, getting rich data and having a more of a, if not wholly guided experience, at least having some informative tips on this is what this is for, this is what that's for, and just providing a little bit of guidance and guiding light for people jumping into the fray. This is awesome.
Yep.
And then improved experience getting started with Power BI. So if people have tried to, you initially connect your system to Power BI, you get some really goofy errors if your system is not connected. It does get disconnected sometimes for, some unknown reasons, and you have to reconnect it. So Microsoft is really cleaning up that Power BI integration back and forth to Business Central. So it's much more straightforward. Also, the demo reports. Honestly, you sort of have to know where to find the demo reports to get them installed into your tenant to view them. It's just a lot of steps. So they're cleaning that process up too. So you're going to get a lot more of the standard reports just delivered with the application. So cleaning up the Power BI experience, I think it'll be good for users. That's more of an administrative type function, and users probably don't care too much about it, but it'll be a nice improvement for the system. So, and that was a quick overview. Did you notice my slide transitions, Scott?
That was amazing. The end there, that was cool.
I didn't want to distract, but
I've been so jealous of Scott's PowerPoint expertise that I just had to spend some time one night. And I have to figure out transitions for all.
Yeah, every time I do a PowerPoint, I use PowerPoint as I'm talking. It's like building out the screen, right? And so many people are like, just show the dang screen. I'm like, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
So no, that's just that's the nerd in me, right? So, well, guys, that was a lot of content to go through. So I
much.
thank you if you were able to stay on the line. We scheduled an hour for it. We knew we were actually chatting on the back, and we're like, should we only do like 5 minutes of Business Central? I'm like, no, let's do the entire thing. Let's cover it. We'll you can access the information later, obviously, because it's a video, which is cool. So if you're able to stay on the line, that's awesome. I don't know, Adam, if you prepared for your geeky deliciousness that you usually have for this.
Deliciousness. If anybody's a Mass Effect fan,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have my trusty Omni tool, so I'm expecting that one of these days Microsoft is gonna, from the Omni tool app store, have D365. I can just queue it up right here and find my opportunities in my pipeline, but then also go to back squad. So this is the IRL Omni tool from the Mass Effect franchise.
That's
and yeah,
all.
we have a couple of them because that's the kind of nerds we are. But
Matt.
that's our geeky delicious for the week.
Mass Effect. I should get the what's the Fallout Boys one? The little apparatus. I forgot what it was called offhand that you would use. Something boy, if I remember correctly.
The Pip Boy. Yeah.
Pip Boy.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I got that somewhere. I should go grab that sometime and show it. So that's awesome. So all right, guys. Thank you for coming. I'll just do a quick announcement here just on the side. So for our next session, Thursday, March 11th at 11 a.m., we're going to go through our Power Apps component framework. So this is where we're actually taking Power Apps and, like, for example, the Canvas apps, and we've got some components. One of them that I use, for example, in our Canvas apps to expose HTML pages. We're going to show you some of that. So it's more of a development-centric kind of session because we're going to go through some of the design concepts with that. But that should be a really fun one to go through. And then March 25th right now, we've got the 4 keys to choosing the best ERP or CRM solution. So we'll have more updates on that as we come to our final week here, or next week. And then it looks like Wednesday, April 8th, we've got jumping into the deep end with Data Lake. So we're trying to get some concepts out there for you guys in terms of how are data lakes being used, how can you tackle them from a finance, a CE, a BC perspective. We've actually used them in all of them now, and in fact Marcus and I were spending time yesterday playing around with it even more, which was a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to talking through those as well. So kind of with that, thank you again for joining. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and yeah, see you then.
What?